Our next presentation is from Chris Lennon from Ross Video, and he's going to be talking about something I think is going to become more and more important to our industry, how to extend NMOS to non-ST2110 environments. It's going to be something I think that will really move the industry forward. So take it away, Chris.
All right, thanks, Wes, and thanks everybody for coming, and let us talk a little bit about what we think is kind of the future of where NMOS could be heading. So we'll just jump right into it, and I'm going to say right off the bat, we're fans of NMOS. We think there's been a lot of good work done by the NMOS groups. So the ISs contain a lot of terrific work, and it's proven out to be very valuable in the 2110 environment. But we started to kind of ask this question, I guess, 8 or 9 months ago, maybe. What if we took some of the things that were done there and saw if they could apply to non-2110 signal types? So that's kind of the question that this is all based on. So, is it possible to extend some of this stuff? And I guess I wouldn't be standing up here if the answer wasn't yes. But today, if you think about all the different signal types that we deal with, we don't really have a single unified way to discover devices and manage the connections there across all these different signal types. You might have one method to do for 2110 devices, another one for NDI, for NDI streams, a variety of other ones. And it makes it challenging, right? Because nobody deals with just one signal type in their facility. It would be nice and simple if it was that way. That's not really the reality. So as a result, we end up today with implementations that are just far more complex than in theory they should have to be. You end up having multiple control systems across these various signal types. Kind of slows everything down, costs more. It's bad. It's not a good situation where we are at the moment. So we took a look at this may be a bit of an eye chart, but for those not familiar, this is the suite of implementation or interface specifications from NMOS, and they deal with kind of a whole gamut of device discovery, connection management. Even getting into things like security when you talk about authorization with IS-10, and as you just heard in the previous talk, IS-12 for control. So there's a lot of specifications here, and these are just the ISs, by the way. I'm not going to deal with all the other NMOS docs, but there's some great capabilities built in to all of these. I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into two of them in particular, into ISO4 and ISO5. So ISO4, if you're not familiar with that, is focused on discovery and registration. Obviously, that's key to be able to discover and register devices as you see them. Today, if you look at ISO4, these devices can describe 2110 streams they have available, so that if you do have NMOS capable controllers, you can manage those. And this is really how you make it manageable to set up network systems in a 2110 environment and to be able to deal with devices as they come on board or disappear. And so ISO4 is critical to be able to do that and does a nice job in the 2110 environment of managing that. Its companion for actual connection management is ISO5. So it works along with ISO4, which does the discovery and registration of the devices, and helps for managing the connections to these actual devices. It does have a transport-independent way of connecting media nodes via 2110, and so RTP, WebSocket, MQTT, and it fills a clear need that was left in the 2110 suite. It really makes 2110 much more easy to implement. So when you put ISO4 and ISO5 together, you've got some nice capability there. However, there's also a kind of a little bit of a gap in the 2110 suite when it comes to how do I control the various streams that I would deal with. And realistically, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, 2110 is probably not all you're dealing with, right? A 2110 exclusive environment is kind of difficult to find right now. So, for instance, what do you do when you go to the cloud? Great question, right? Not everything is on-prem. A lot of things are going to the cloud. 2110 is not applicable to that environment. So how do I deal with that? And how do I just deal with the cases where I've got multiple transports that I need to handle? Well, ideally in these what I'm terming a hybrid environment, where you've got some things on-prem, some things in the cloud, multiple transports being used. The ideal world you would want to get to is to be able to discover, register, and manage all the devices available to you regardless of where they are, right? That's really the panacea that we're looking for here. Now, today, in version 1.3 of NMOS, you do have support for several different transports. I'm not going to read them all off here, but it does support several of these here. Really, all of them are listed on this slide. And but you'll notice NDI was not on that list. NDI, as we all know, has gotten great uptake in the business over the last year and a half, 2 years, primarily due to the fact that it's free, it's open. There's a free SDK that's available for you to adopt it. It's not a standard, but a lot of people don't care. Whether it's actually got the standard seal of approval on it, and I probably shouldn't be saying this with my little SIGTI badge on, but people have adopted NDI, and it's been quite successful, in the cloud environment, and I'd say it's becoming a de facto standard out there. Similarly, in the AWS world, you've got CDI, stands for Cloud Digital Interface. And this is their answer to transporting uncompressed video inside of the AWS cloud. And with the footprint that AWS has in our business, this is becoming increasingly relevant. So you've got CDI, you've got NDI. You've also got, a lot of you may have heard of IPMX out there, and that's another interesting approach. This has come out of the ProAV world. Which, unlike our professional media area, where we're used to having standards, we're kind of limited on what we can do, we're very structured. In the Pro AV area, very little standardization. I'm saying it's really kind of devoid of standardization. It's very much, I'd characterize it as the Wild West. Primarily due to domination by a handful of vendors, and they're all using HD-based T. On the other hand, in our professional realm, we've got a few video formats that we've isolated on: 720p, 1080i, 2160p. Whereas Pro AV, it's everything from, you remember VGA, all the way up to 8K, and pretty much everything in between is supported there. So far more challenging than our traditional media environment. And unfortunately, the situation for audio in Pro AV is quite similar. It's very much the Wild West out there. You also, in the Pro AV realm, you often have untrained users. These are not professional broadcast engineers like we're accustomed to having. It's people who are very new to AV. Makes things also quite challenging. A lot of different verticals when you're dealing with Pro AV. You could name pretty much any vertical, and Pro AV is being used in it. And there's really very, very little cross-vendor interoperability in there, and that's really the problem that IPMX tries to solve. They took a look from the Pro AV perspective at 2110. And they said, it's close, but it's not exactly what we need. But there's a bunch of stuff in there that we think is useful. They said, 2110 with compression and maybe a few more tweaks might work nicely for the Pro AV business, and maybe this would give us a standard that we could all agree upon. And so that's what IPMX does. 2110 and NMOS do form the foundation of all of this, so that's kind of the good news, is that even though it's the Wild West in the Pro AV world, 2110 and NMOS kind of give us some promise of interoperability and some degree of standardization in that realm. You'll notice I've conveniently skipped a couple of other fairly common transports. So we've got SRT out there. We've got RIST as well. So we don't want to ignore them. And so it comes back to kind of the fundamental question that I'm here to kind of talk about is, can we use ISO 4 and ISO 5 for all of these other transports, not just NDI, but CDI, RIST, SRT, and others? The answer has been yes so far. So we've undertaken an effort at Ross Video to just like let's try it out and let's see if we can make this work, and let's see how easy or complex it is to do that. So, the very basic foundation, we've said, okay, well, what if we just add a new transport type of NDI, add a sender type in here, like we've got an NDI sender. On the receiver side, there's a few things in an NDI environment that we would need to worry about. So you can see here how we've broken out ancillary data, audio, video. What am I able to receive here? The bandwidth, color format, sender name, a few basic things. So we built a structure in there like that. The good news is the changes to ISO 4, ISO 5 in order to accommodate NDI, it's not really that onerous to do that. And we've proven it out. We did a proof of concept for the AMWA group focused on this, and we proved that it can be done. So that's the good news. So you'll notice all the formats I've talked about thus far are streaming formats, IP-based streaming formats. You probably recognize these two connectors, right? These are not IP-based formats. So, what about those? What about dealing with SDI and even maybe HDMI? Could we extend all this to work for them? We think we probably could, actually. So we're not just talking IP streams here. We're talking non-IP streams as well. So yes, we think we could make all this work for these types of transports as well. Jumping to, at the beginning, I had that list of all of the different ISs in there, and I've been focusing on ISO 4 and ISO 5. And like I said, the good news is, yes, we have proven that can work, and we're taking that to AMWA as a formal project to get all that into the next version of the specifications. However, you can't really gloss over security in this whole area, and so talking about ISs that are of interest to us, the authorization one, IS-10, is absolutely of interest as well. And people characterize that as security. It's really kind of a subset of security focused on authorization. And so basically what this does is only allows authorized devices to be connected into. But really what's nice about it is it's agnostic about the transport. So could this apply with other transports like CDI, like NDI, like all the other ones we were talking about? Yes, we believe IS-10 can work across all of those. And increasingly, we're seeing IS-10 being a requirement by our customers, saying, if you're going to bid on a project for me, you better include IS-10 authorization. And so the good news there, again, is it's transport agnostic as well. The great thing about IS-10, and where we think AMWA did a really nice job, is they based it. They didn't just invent something brand new in the area of authorization. They based it on OAuth 2 and JSON Web Tokens. So two things that are well known and already widely accepted. So they brought those into all this and kind of did their own flavor on all of that in IS10. So yeah, it's very useful, and like I said, we need to think about other endpoints like NDI devices and securing those as well, and we think IS10 can fit the bill there as well. So just to kind of summarize, this is all good news. If you're interested in this type of activity, we are expecting final approval from AMWA of a formal project to initially tackle NDI for ISO 4 and ISO 5, and we expect to start that very soon. We also do not expect this to be a years-long activity. I'm projecting, maybe I've said I may be naive about it, but I think we can accomplish this in like a few meetings. You know, we've done a lot of the heavy lifting already. We've proven that this can be done. We think we know the right approach to do it. Just a matter of getting it into a wider audience, have everybody check it, make sure that the approach that we're doing is sound, and then hopefully get that approved. The goal is, like I said, to tackle NDI first. Second on our list is CDI. And then the slew of other transports. What's that?
RIST.
RIST?
Yes.
RIST is absolutely on the roadmap as well. Yeah, and could our priorities be changed? Sure. But we just thought NDI is a good starting point. But we think the other ones should fall into place fairly quickly once we've established that we can make ISO 4 and ISO 5 work for another transport like NDI. Then you've kind of broken through the dam, and then you go on and do all the other transports from there. So yeah, we're big fans of NMOS. We do think this if we can use NMOS across all these different signal flows, we think it can greatly simplify system design in the business, probably cut costs, make it just a whole lot easier to support. Adding the flexibility of on-prem and the cloud, which is the reality that we're in, despite the cloud getting a lot of hype recently, and I'm one of the biggest fans of the cloud. The reality is, for the foreseeable future, we're going to be in a hybrid environment. So you need to support the cloud and on-prem.